Hey everybody, it is really good to see you today, and I'm glad to see that we have a number of people who've joined our Zoom session today. For those of you who have joined, after this Zoom session, you can go right to Canvas and go to the Zoom assignment and note the date that you attended, which if we take a look here, your Zoom assignment should be here, right here, Zoom meeting for project number 1. You can go ahead and do that ahead of time. If you are watching this video, which is fine, everybody's got, I'm scheduling meetings. This is my 3rd meeting of the day. I have another one left. And so if you cannot make the time that I need to make the meeting, that's fine. What your job is you are going to then watch the video and you're going to take notes. And in the Zoom assignment, it will tell you how long your notes need to be based on the video. The more students who participate, the better it is. And what do I mean by that? I mean that I will do a Zoom session even if I'm all by myself, and I will do what was on the plan for the day as much as I can. I try to include activities, but today is going to be a little bit more of a lecture because it's our very first one. But I will do the sessions regardless of whether people are here. But if you are here, it's sort of better for everybody else because you can ask questions, you can share concerns, etc. about what is going on. So I just wanted to start out with that. I have a few other things to start out with. If you are not speaking, if you could please keep yourself on mute as much as you can, that would be great. Yulia's offered to mind the chat. If you have a question, you could put it in the chat. Unless I say, okay, I'm going to open it up here and then people can ask questions at will. Yulia, feel comfortable interrupting me. I've minded the chat before and I have to interrupt for other people. Do not feel badly about interrupting me. There's no ego here involved. I do want to share that a few things for you, just some reminders based on questions and things that I'm being asked pretty consistently. The first is if you go outside of Canvas to do an activity such as the Google form questionnaire, the Flipgrid, or the VoiceThread, or the Padlet, I'm asking you to go out and do it there, and then I'm asking you to come back and either put the date and some notes or just the date. So please make sure you do that second step, because if you don't, even if you have done it on the VoiceThread or the Flipgrid or whatever, I won't be able to see it on Canvas, and that's where I need you to come back and do that, please. The other is that with Google Docs, I sent a little video yesterday about how to access my Google Docs. I use Google Docs all the time, and I'm asking you to actually type in the Google Docs, but you can't do that unless you go and make your own copy. And then you need to make sure you're sharing it so that anyone with a link can view. That is really critical so that we can see who it's from. So like when I see the assignment, I can see that it's from you. So I am going to do one thing that I'm going to have you be on in a little job doing while you're listening to me if you can. Brian, I know you're working so you may not be able to, but it's just something I'm going to have you do while I'm doing this little lecture question answering session. And that is, if you are on a screen for Zoom, you're going to want to make sure that you have a little bit of space at the bottom to put our little Zoom, to scroll or move our Zoom session down. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a link to something where I'm asking everybody to edit. So you can already edit. It's a collaborative Google Doc. And I want you to be able to get from the link that I'm going to put in the chat in a minute. I want you to be able to get back into the Zoom meeting. And if you have your Zoom session and your tabs a little bit out of line with one another, you're able to go back and forth as you need to. So I am going to grab the link here and share it in the chat. And the link, once you get it in just a minute, I'm asking you to share a message that has recently grabbed your attention I'm asking you to copy and paste a screenshot. Maybe it's something on TikTok or Instagram or something. And so like there's a screenshot you can do and you can save it as a photo and download it easily here. I will show you in case you do not know. If you save a screenshot of something, you can always go to insert and you can insert an image from your computer very easily, okay? And then I'm gonna ask you to say why. And if you don't wanna do a screenshot, if you see something, you wanna describe it or you wanna write down the text that was on it, you're gonna put the message here and then you're gonna write why, okay? And if we have time at the end of the session, we're gonna talk about it. If we don't, we're gonna revisit it a little bit later in the semester, another week or two down. So I just want to get us started here. And if there's not enough spaces in the table, I can easily add more because I'm going to ask people who are watching the video to do this as well. And I'm combining two classes together today. I have two English 103s. So I am going to make us small just for a minute. I'm going to share the link. And while you're watching, I already have anyone with the link can edit. If there's nobody, anything here, you can click down here to make sure somebody can at least view it. I'm going to copy the link here. And I'm going to go back. Actually, I want to make sure I like to see people. I'm going to go to the chat. And I'm going to link the Google Docs in the chat. And there it is. There's a live link for you. I'm going to give you a minute to go and get on it, and then I will come back and start. I'll stay here, but I'm just going to be quiet for a moment so you guys can do that. At least get started with it. And then while you're doing that, I am going to add a few more.
Would you have lighter one?
I'm going to maybe give you one more minute to get started. You don't have to be completed, just to kind of get started and to think about it. I'll give you another minute, maybe two. All right. So I'm gonna remind people that if you can, if you're not speaking, to mute yourself. If you're able to. If you're not able to, that's no big deal. You guys can keep working working on this while I'm starting to answer questions. You can toggle back and forth. I wanted to start off by telling you, if you notice an error or something missing or there's an issue, please let me know. I am teaching several classes this summer session, one that started last week and a couple that started this week, and I'm doing a couple of different preps. So if I have some typos, just let me know. I fix them, and it's not that big of a deal. I try to make sure that things are working and I maintain things so that's not an issue, but
I mean, right? It's like our kids work their butts off.
messages.
Oh, I know that. I can speak your language already. I mean, they work.
And then I wanted to ask, and Yulia, thank you for checking the chat. Does anyone have any questions specifically about the orientation? Anything about the orientation at all?
I got one really quick.
Yes.
I know you extended, or I'm not sure if you offered a bunch of people, but you had an extension out to midday today.
Yes.
Is that noon in particular? Because
No. I mean, even if you get later this afternoon, that's fine. And the only reason why I'm not saying, hey, take till the end of the week is that because it's summer, we got to get started, and this first unit is going to be our heaviest actually in terms of content. But no, don't worry. I'm not one of those teachers, unless I say something specific, like it has to be in by this time or something else doesn't happen. Don't worry about it. If you need
I appreciate it. Okay.
Yeah, no
So
problem.
I'll make sure, because I would like to attend this, but I wasn't sure if I had to multitask or not. So thank you.
No, you don't need to multitask. Don't worry. All right. Thanks, Dylan. All right. So any other questions about the orientation? All right. Fantastic. So I want to get into the first project here, and I want to walk you through it because I find that when I walk students through the projects, they actually understand them a little bit more. And so our module technically starts today, and I want to share that for every unit we have a roadmap. And the roadmap has every single writing project prompt or a link to a writing project prompt. And my last class that I met with was the same level as you, but they started a week earlier. And so there's a couple of links I'm actually going to add into this for tutorials that I will have that done within the next couple of hours. I have one more meeting right after this. But I want to share that we always have a roadmap, and I wanted to share this particular quotation here. It says, "True law is right reason in agreement with nature. There will be no different laws, but one eternal and unchangeable law that will be valid for all nations and all times. The good of the people is the chief law." Now, this was written by Cicero thousands of years ago, but I want to say that it's in line with what is offered in ethical argument. But I want to share as well that Kurtler in ethical argument is not telling you that you should read his book and follow his laws and rules without critically thinking about them, without challenging them yourselves. So I just want to share that he's never saying that you should read something and take something at face value. In fact, I would never say as a teacher, even though some might, I just know what's right and you shouldn't question what I'm saying at all. I don't think that's right. And in fact, there have been many times when students have taught me things. There's a lot of information in the world to know, and we can't all know everything. And so if we come to our learning space with patience for one another, with an open mind, and with this idea that we really want to challenge our own assumptions. Every time I teach this book, I try to re-challenge my own assumptions. And so I really want to open that up and share that with you as well. And what Kurtler is suggesting is that there are some actions that are right and wrong, and it doesn't matter the time, it doesn't matter the place, it doesn't matter about any of the external circumstances, there's right and wrong. So that's what he's suggesting in here. And so as you get started reading, I want you to please pay attention to that. Okay, so it's going to, with any class that you take, and I don't care if you're taking it or I'm taking it. In fact, I'm taking a class right now. I'm taking an Equity 102 class for educators. And, you know, it takes a little while to get comfortable with the pattern and the expectations of the teacher in the class, and that's normal. I want to share that this class meets the critical thinking standard for your GEs, your general education requirement. And so we're really focusing on two things. We're focusing on critical thinking, and then this is also a composition class. This is the last one that you have to take for college, and so I really want to make this count. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. And I'm asking you here to please read this critical thinking definition essay. And then I have a handout called Critical Thinking Frameworks, and I'm going to open that up and share that with you right now. There are several different sort of critical thinking frameworks that people can say, this is a way to critically think for this, or this is a way to critically think about that, etc. In our class, we're focusing on 3, and there are 3 separate ones, but they also intertwine together. They both actually, they all sort of overlap. And so you're going to be noticing that. Zoom always takes a moment with the visuals here. But the first critical thinking framework we're going to be looking at is on ethics, and we're going to be doing that with our ethical argument book. I have a copy of the first 3 reading assignments, which is chapters 1 and 2. Okay, chapter 1 is divided up into 2 reading assignments. And so I believe, I'd have to look. I never like to say it's for sure, but I believe you have the first one to do tonight. So the first half of the chapter. And I want to share that this is a heavy reading book. What do I mean by heavy? I mean that I usually like to read 2 or 3 or 4 pages at a time, and then put it down, and then go do something else, and then come back and visit it again. I do that. So it's okay that you need to do that as well. I'm not saying that you should only read a few pages a day. You can't do that. But what I am suggesting is that you give yourself several hours to really deal with this. You can work on this and then maybe do something else and then come back, so that you really are understanding this to the best of your ability, okay? All right, so now that our visual's up, let's toggle back to critical thinking frameworks. So we're gonna be looking at ethics. We're gonna be thinking about what is the history of ethics, why are ethics important, and how can we make ethical decisions. We're gonna be looking at rhetoric, which you may have done this already in your English 100 class a little bit. I know I do in my English 100 classes that I teach. Rhetoric is, the focus is on what authors use, what strategies they use to convince their audiences of their points of view, okay? We're gonna be watching various films. I'm gonna be asking you to try and find the films. Sometimes I have access to them, but most of the time I don't. You can look on the calendar to see which films are assigned. Sometimes they're on Netflix, sometimes they're on Amazon, sometimes there's other places that you can get them. And you can contact one another if somebody has an idea about, hey, I found this film for really cheap, blah, 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 here. But you are gonna be watching the Imitation Game first. And so we're gonna really be focusing in on what strategies authors use to convince their audiences, and whether they're ethical or not. Sometimes authors either purposely or not purposely use fallacies, and fallacies are actually discussed in this book as well. They use fallacies to support their point of view and to support you believing what they want you to believe. And then we're going to be focusing in on the critical framework of types of argumentation, and you're going to have an opportunity to choose a type of argumentation for your writing, this one particular writing project, okay? So I wanted to take a moment to focus in on this here. All right, so like I said before, every roadmap contains the writing project. You will have that at the very beginning of the unit, so you'll know what you're going to be, thinking about what you're going to write about right at the beginning. This is a 2-week unit, and then the rest of the units are anywhere between 1 week, 1.5 weeks, and our last one is like a half week. But you're going to be working on that last half week throughout because it's going to be a writing project on the films that you've seen. You're going to choose 1 or 2 of those. All right, so let's take a look at the writing project number 1. So in this first unit, we're going to be focusing on our first critical thinking framework. We're reading ethical argument. Like I said, it's a heavy read. And I try to really design the learning experience so that it supports you and supports you understanding this. I will say that many students who were initially apprehensive about this book look back and say that this was the most influential book that they read during the semester. So even though it's hard, it's very worthwhile. And the goal for this particular writing project is to determine how if something is actually ethical. And you are going to use this information that you've learned from this book to investigate either an unethical law or occurrence. The unethical law or occurrence could have taken place currently, or it could be something that has taken place back in history. Either which way, I have 2 topics that are off the table. The first topic is abortion. I've seen so many abortion papers. It is overwritten about, not to mention that we might have some people in the class who have had an abortion, and I do require peer reviews. That is off the table. So no topic about abortion, ethical, unethical. That's done. The other topic is gay marriage. We do have gay marriage in the state of California, and I do not want there to be a paper written about why there shouldn't be gay marriage. So that topic has also been written about, and it's very important. Both abortion and gay marriage are very important topics, but those topics are off the table for this particular writing project, okay? So let's go down to the writing project directions. I always take our prompt and make it a question because sometimes that's very helpful to students. So the question is, what is an unethical law? It might be stated or implied, or occurrence that needs to be changed or responded to, okay? And the prompt itself is, choose an unethical law, stated or implied, or occurrence, and argue why it's unethical in a multi-paragraph essay using ideas within ethical argument in your paper, including the procedure of verification and the use of fallacy. What do I mean by that? There's a procedure where you can figure out whether something is ethical or not. It takes some doing because we are all biased. Every single one of us, we were born in a particular time, in a particular place, within a particular culture or set of cultures that determine our outlook about how we view things. And so we need to be able to strip those down to figure out whether something is ethical or not. And anytime there is an unethical law or occurrence, someone or some group tries to tell us why it's not unethical, and they use fallacy to try and convince their audience that it's not. So by the time you're done reading this, you will be able to write about your project using the procedure of verification and identify a fallacy or 2 that was used to determine that your topic is ethical as opposed to unethical, okay? The parameters, the length is 1,500 words, not characters. Sometimes students think it's characters, which would make it very short. It's words, and in Google and in Word, they actually show you the word count, and you can even have it on while you're writing your paper if you need to. I want you to put it at the end of your text. This is worth 20% of your grade, this single assignment. The writing projects are worth 70% of your grade. You must use Kertler's ethical argument. You must use outside sources both from the library and the internet. In fact, I'm going to add a couple of things here. If you need help using the library, I'm going to have an optional VoiceThread tutorial which you can participate in or just look at to learn how to really go into the library and try to find something. If you are investigating an unethical law or occurrence that is occurring right this moment in this big wave of history, we have so many things going on right now. What you would look at in the library is something about your overall topic, but you probably won't be able to get super detailed with the law or occurrence because it's happening right now, okay? But you may be able to look back and find something from the library that's a little bit more generic about your topic. If your topic is older, you are most likely going to be able to find several sources from the library, but you need to find at least one. You also are going to have to incorporate a visual within your paper. Every single project I teach, you must use a visual, and I have a handout here called Incorporating Visuals. And it also gives you some ideas about how to cite your visuals within your paper. But I want you to think about the fact you can take a photo. You can find a photo. The photo can be a graph. It can be a map. It can be statistics. You can incorporate a video within your writing project. But you have to incorporate some sort of visual. And I want you to think about it like this. Most of us are on some sort of social media, and there are times when you see a visual and then there's some wording with it, and if they were to take out the visual, the words wouldn't be quite as powerful. So you want to make sure that you choose a visual that is going to really support what it is you're writing about, and that if it wasn't there, there would be something a little lacking in your writing, okay? Now, sometimes students have a visual like right away, like I'm going to write about this and I've got this visual, a video or a this or a that right away. And then sometimes students don't. And what I try to tell you is that's okay. You can wait until the end. You don't need to try and have your visual before you have your topic or things written out.
There is a question.
Yes.
Can you create your own visual?
Yes, you can absolutely create your own visual. Yes, absolutely. Great question. And yes, the answer is yes and yes. I love it when you do that, actually, if you can, and it fits your purpose. Okay, so the other thing is you need to follow Mla Format in terms of title, page numbering, and text citations and works cited. I have a Purdue link here, but I'm also going to put in a VoiceThread right there. I have a note for myself to put that in. So I'm going to be adding that, like I said, within the next couple of hours today. Okay, so the next aspect I have as an overall, but I'm going to share something of an exception with you. And that is, I want you to write in the third person for this genre or style of essay, where you avoid personal pronouns, I, me, you, etc. And the purpose for that is that scholarly writing often, not always, but scholarly writing often does not use personal pronouns in it. And unless the only reason where you would have an exception for this, and this wouldn't even be the entire paper, it just would be in certain parts, is that if you want to write about an unethical occurrence that happened to you, you can then use personal pronouns in your description of it. Now, your description of whether it's ethical or not, I want you to kind of go back and then stop using them, but you can actually do that if that's something that you want to do. The next thing that I want to talk about is this self-assessment revision reflection journal, and that's a big, long title, but it's very specific on purpose. This is an assignment that is required. What do I mean by required? And I use the M word, and I hardly ever use the M word, but I'm using it here. It is mandatory. In order to turn in your writing project, you must turn in this self-assessment revision reflection journal for your writing project to count. That is noted in your syllabus in the writing projects portion, and it is mentioned here, and it will be mentioned in every other writing project. And the reason is this: you need to reflect on how it is you're doing your writing. And since this is the very last composition class that you have to take, you can be done with composition forever if you want. It's really important for you to take some time to really reflect on your own writing in order to improve your writing. And we all can improve. I'm constantly improving my writing, and writing is a lifelong practice. So I actually have, within the self-assessment revision reflection journal assignment, I have a handout that details what you need to do, and I created a voice thread tutorial for you so that you can have it. In a nutshell, what it is you're doing is you are going to write your first draft, but before you get a peer review, you're going to do a reflection, and there are questions there for you. After you get your peer review done on your paper, you're going to have another reflection, and there are questions on it. As you turn in your paper, there's going to be some questions that you're going to have to answer about your paper that you're going to turn in as a comment, and you're also going to copy and paste them and put them in this third revision. And then finally, a couple of days after you've written your paper, there's going to be some more reflection on after the fact. So unless I say differently, depending on the class, etc., you're going to be doing 4 different entries. Do the entries have to be super long? No, they don't have to be super long, but they need to be detailed enough to be helpful to you. Okay? So this is due 2 days after the final draft. It is included in the writing project module where it is housed, but we will have started our next unit, but you still have that couple of days to turn it in. Okay. All right. So I also want to share that with every single writing prompt, I include a problem, an audience, a purpose, because there's a purpose in you writing this, and then I also include your writing checklist, and I have both writing checklists for the weeks. And if there's something wrong on that, you can let me know. I can fix it. Okay. I use the calendar to help me, and sometimes there's issues. You can always let me know. But I want to share with you quickly. I want to go over these quickly, but I want to share that I don't just give you a writing assignment for no reason. We are living in a society that is rife, that is just filled with ethical issues and behaviors that should be different. And your job is to choose one that you think is a problem. It should be something that you care about. Like I said, it could be something historical if you want. I want you to look up information from the library and internet to investigate. And your job is to convince the audience that there is an unethical issue using the framework from ethical argument and find a partial solution. What do I mean by finding a partial solution? I mean that scholars sometimes are looking for solutions to problems. Like we're looking for solutions for COVID-19. And there are many, many people out there who are looking for vaccines. And at the end of the day, they may even have 2 or 3 different vaccines. They're looking, people are looking for ways, how can we still live our lives, but also guard ourselves against the illness? What can we do? And so they're constantly coming up with partial things that we can do that if we all put them together, that our chances of getting COVID are lowered. This is just for example. It is perfectly acceptable to come up with a partial solution and even note that there's more that needs to be done here, but this is at least a step in the right direction, right? So it's perfectly acceptable to come up with a partial solution. And you're going to be anticipating counter arguments and refer to them within your paper. I am going to, like I said, within the next couple of hours, I'm going to update this page. And when I send out the Zoom video link, I will let you know that I have fixed these, and you can come back and take a look at even more support added to this page. All right. The audience, yes, you're turning in the paper to me. But when I read the paper, I'm going to be rereading the paper with this audience, that audience in mind. That your job is to convince the person, group, or institution who has the power to make changes that this particular law or occurrence is unethical. So that's who you should be writing to. That's who you should be thinking about. And the purpose is that throughout our lives, we have decisions to make, some of which are based on preference and culture, and others are based on more serious issues that involve ethics. And these types of decisions are ethical, and our responsibility as members of a community is to take these decisions seriously and maturely so that we can ultimately make ethical decisions. We can vote for ethical decisions. We can make them ourselves so that we can avoid infringing on the rights of others and avoid hurting others. Okay? So again, this is just a reminder for this project. I'm looking forward to you identifying an unethical law or occurrence and finding viable solutions by finding valid and reliable outside sources and using Kertler's procedure of verification justification. All right, Julia, do we have any questions?
No, actually.
All right, I'm going to open it up. If you have a question that you would just like to ask and not type in the chat, you're more than welcome to ask.
All right, there is one question right now.
All right.
Does the solution have to be reasonable or fiscal or realistic? Example.
It should be, yes. It should be reasonable, yes. I don't want, don't come up with a solution like, yeah, we should all move to Mars so that we, you know what I mean? At this point, that's not reasonable. Okay, so I think that, yes, it does need to be reasonable. That's a very good question. Yes, reasonable. And you should be thinking of fiscal if you can, but if, it could be that I don't know how much this is going to cost, but this would be the way to go. And here's some possibilities.
I have a question myself. Is this supposed to be the law in the United States, or it could be other
It could be anywhere. Yes, a lot of students actually have great things to write about from countries that they initially come from, or just countries that they're interested in. And yes, it can be from any country.
And the evidence that we provide should be in English though?
Well, you should be able to at least interpret some of it so that we can read it. Like don't put it in the, you don't have to translate the entire 50-page, 100-page document, but if you could translate a little bit of it, enough for the paper. Yeah, great question. Anybody else?
I think we'll be able to put it in Google Translate, correct? I think it would also be able to translate that.
Great idea. Did you hear that, Julia?
Well, I speak the language, so
No, he was saying that you could put it in Google
yeah,
Translate.
I think most of the websites also translate automatically right now. You can just click and they do it on their own.
Fantastic. Can you tell me who said that, because you're not on my gallery right this minute, who came up with that suggestion?
That's Peter.
Hi, Peter. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. I'm sorry if you're not in my little area, I can't see. And since I'm sharing my screen, I only get 6 of us here. Thank you for that, Peter. All right. So we're going to end pretty soon, but I wanted to go back to our Google Doc here. It looks like it froze. Oh, there we go. And I want to share with you that you should come back and take a look. I'm going to include this as a link. Don't close yours down, but I'm going to include this as a link as well, because this is about rhetoric. This is about what captures our attention and why. And so I want you to be thinking about this, because we're going to come back and revisit this If we had a little bit more time, I would put you into breakout rooms and have you discuss it, but we don't, so I won't. But we'll come back and revisit this, and I'm going to make enough space for everybody. What's going to be great about this is that some of the activities that are outside of Canvas, you get to interact with my other English 103 class. I have 2 online English 103 classes, and so you can interact here. So if you were like wondering why is that person there, they're not in my class, it's because there's 2 that are together. So I just wanted to be upfront with that. All right, any other questions?
I guess for me, I was going to ask what the best suggestion for like planning this out would be, because I know that you're wanting us to use the book as one of our sources, but we're not going to be able to finish the entire book before we start writing. So
You're going to be able to finish the first 4 chapters, the chapters that are assigned. Yes, you will.
okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was the whole book. That was my mistake.
No, you're not finishing the whole book. I mean, I would keep it, but yeah, no, you're not. This is a book that I would not sell back. That's just my recommendation. Do what you want. But no, you're not going to, you're reading 4 chapters, and they are broken up into 5 assignments. The
Okay.
first 2 assignments is chapter 1, and then the other assignments are chapter 2, 3, and 4.
Okay.
And I would use this weekend to really get finished with all 4 of those chapters, quite frankly. Today's Thursday. I think you have an assignment due tonight. Don't quote me. You have to look at the calendar. And then you have another assignment due Friday night. And then you have until next Tuesday, but I would still get those done so that you can use your time, so you actually have some time to relax. Because these types of classes tend to take, 20 to 25 hours a week, because it's a 6-week class, 3 units, 6 weeks.
Mhm.
It's 9 in-class hours and then another 18 to 20 for homework. So you really want to make sure you're utilizing your time in a way that's best for you.
Okay.
Hey guys, I'm sorry to butt in. I am at work, so I'm gonna have to actually just go back. I didn't
Oh,
want to
yes,
get
go
tripped
ahead.
over it.
We're almost done anyway. Take care.
So, all right, perfect. Thank you very much. Have a good one, guys. Good luck to everybody.
Thanks.
All right.
All right. Anybody else? Any other questions? All right. Well, I am going to tell you thank you very much. Thank you.